I got a question from one of the women in the Becoming Secure membership recently, and I wanted to answer it as a full podcast episode. It will be short, but it felt really important because I realized that this is something that is swirling around in terms of anxious attachment, which is the topic of detachment. And there are these very vibey TikTok videos and YouTube videos about this necessity, and I quote, necessity of being detached. Like you just have to remain detached. And I think there's a bit of a trap in that because in so many ways, we just cannot actually be detached from someone, like the mind is way too active for that. So I want to break down what I think that actually means, what people are getting at, and what she actually asked specifically was if I had a practice or a meditation to learn to detach from someone. She said, because from my understanding, sometimes we are not in love, we are attached. And to fully know if I'm in love or attached, I would like to practice detachment. So let's also break down that second sentence. Because from my understanding, sometimes we are not in love, we are attached. So what she's pointing to here is something that is called a trauma bond. And that is when we feel attracted to someone that is more based on our wounding than actual healthy love. So that happens when the person feels comfortable. Energetically, they sort of represent something to us, and that's why we can find ourselves attracting the same type of men when we seemingly had no idea that that's how they were. There's something that's happening on an energetic level and a nervous system level that we are unconsciously picking up on that is resonant or equal to what we've experienced in the past. And so if you meet someone, and I tell this story somewhere earlier in the podcast where I went into an event and there was, I'm not kidding, 1,000 people in there. It was a New Year's Eve party. And I saw someone with his back facing me. And I said to my friend, that's the guy that I want to talk to tonight. And the reason that I probably picked up on him so quickly was because his energy, literally his vibe, his aura, his frequency, his nervous system state matched what seemed attractive to me for so long, which was this avoidant, unavailable, hard to get person who I was going to have to prove my love to, who would ultimately end up not choosing me. And it can be kind of hard to conceptualize that something like that is happening so energetically, but that is exactly what's happening. But the caveat here that I have a hard time with is when people say that they weren't in love, it was just a trauma bond. And I think there's sort of a both and situation happening there where, yes, our initial attraction to them may have been a trauma bond. We may be very confused as to what love is and what it should feel like, but I don't think it discounts having deep care and deep desire to care for someone. So I think it's not necessarily beneficial to try and brainwash ourselves that, oh, I didn't actually love him, it was just this thing, because in that we're telling ourselves that we maybe haven't loved people or we don't know what love is. So then when we're trying to continue to pursue it in other directions, do we even know, or are we even able to trust ourselves when we do feel that same care and desire for someone else that ideally is able to meet our needs and communicate and has a healthier nervous system pattern and healthier attachment potentially. So if we say that we didn't love all of these previous people, I honestly think it just sets us up for failure with new people, because then whenever we're starting to feel the positive feelings of connection, we might write it off as, oh, I'm becoming too attached, and that's a dangerous thing. So seeking this state of detachment is almost like an overcorrection, right? It's leaning towards that avoidant side of relating, which is I need to keep myself protected. I need to keep myself safe. I need to not catch feelings. I need to not get emotionally involved. And that's not what a healthy, mature love is either. And I think ultimately what people are looking for when they're seeking detachment is to be able to remain grounded and intact with themselves as they go down a relationship path. Because what happens so often is, especially those with anxious attachment, fall super fast. We commit really fast. We are planning the future in our minds and fantasizing. And now we've created all of this expectation for the future, which often sets us up for pain. And if we get stuck in the push-pull cycle with someone for long enough, then ultimately we start to feel like we have lost ourselves in relationship, right? Maybe you've seen yourself play out one or a couple of those things when you're dating people. So because that happens, it can feel very chaotic, very out of control, very anxiety inducing, very overwhelming, and then ultimately leads to some grief and heartbreak. So in order to avoid that, this idea of detachment sounds really good, but what we're actually seeking is to feel safe and in control as we go deeper into a relationship. And I think another trap in the topic of detachment is that it's pretty foreign to your nervous system as someone with anxious attachment. So even if you are being detached or acting detached, I'm going to call out that you probably don't feel detached at all, because unless you're doing this work on a nervous system level and you're doing the somatic work and the subconscious work, and maybe you're in my Becoming Secure membership and you are diving into that, unless you are able to bring detachment deeply, deeply into your subconscious, I doubt you're actually feeling detached, even if you are presenting as someone who is detached, thinking you're going to somehow get the upper hand in relationship. So hopefully with that little mini rant, I've taken that off the table. Now let's talk about what you actually want, which is to feel, like I said, grounded and secure and in control in your relationship. So how do we do that? What is the practice for that? Well, the practice for that in terms of anxious attachment is going to be, it's going to be really important to go slow. And I think I talk about this in one of the earlier episodes, but because we have an urgency, a graspingness within our energy, a deep desire to be chosen and to be in relationship often with other people, we tend to move very quickly. And so when we can pace ourselves in that and just bringing some mindfulness to how you're dating and your relationship and your desire for this person is progressing, literally just bringing your mind to it, taking a step back and thinking, okay, what's the reality of what's happened here? So I met him then and we went on this date. And if I was looking at this from an outsider perspective, is how I'm feeling, how intense I'm feeling actually in alignment with what's actually happened? Do I need to slow down here? What would that look like? Maybe I need to prioritize some time for myself this week instead of just waiting around and hoping he asks me on a date. Maybe I need to catch up with a girlfriend. Maybe I need to ask that one friend of mine that knows I need to go slow what her opinion is, or just ask her to hear me and maybe reflect back to me how I'm feeling and tell her the details that I have and see, what resonates with her. Not that you need to make decisions based on someone else, but just giving yourself a mindful moment to slow down in the development of this relationship. That's what's going to help you stay grounded and stay in control. The second thing is definitely being detached, definitely being in tune to what your needs and boundaries and wants are in terms of pursuing relationships. So often, when we are caught in this thing in our insecurities of just trying to get a man, like our insecurities are flaring so high that our self-worth is just saying, I just want basically any man that I'm attracted to want me. And we forget very quickly what it actually is that we want in relationship. Is it commitment that you want? If it is commitment that you want, can you hold that as your truth and hold that as your anchor in where you're going? Because if you know that you want commitment, you are not going to tolerate someone who is completely unavailable to commit to you. When you're not claiming your desire for commitment and you start to tolerate someone that's putting you through the situationship loop, that's when you start to feel out of control and lose yourself, because you literally self-abandoned what you wanted in order to hopefully change their mind or just spend time with them or whatever story you told yourself. So going back to this part about desire and relationship, it might be more than commitment. What have you learned already about yourself and your nervous system that you know you need in terms of feeling safe in relationship? It's likely consistency in communication. Maybe you know that you want to date someone that lives close to you and you don't want to do long distance, or maybe you know that you actually want to have children later in life or within the next 5 years or so. And so these are the things that we have to be hold as part of us when we're dating. And I really need you to not throw all those things out the window just to please a man. That is when we start to feel chaotic and out of control, because we feel like we're losing all of the things we want that we likely never even spoke into or communicated to this person, because we were so busy trying to prove our worth to them or please them. And what kind of falls at the foundation of all of this is a deep understanding of who you are. So that's going to come with your exploration of what your boundaries are and what your needs are. But when you know who you are, when you are connected to the essence of your heart and your soul, and you can trust yourself in that, then this topic of needing to remain detached is no longer relevant. Then you actually get to love fully with that big heart of yours that I know has so much love to give, without it being this crazy free fall risk into water with God knows what underneath, because you are actually seated in yourself, in your self-trust, in your core, in knowing what you want and who you are. So when you're relating to someone and their behavior or their words or who they are isn't working, instead of you scrambling to try and fix that or prove something, you're able to remain centered in yourself. And from that place, you can be loving and opening, and you can wear your heart on your sleeve if that's what feels good for you, because you know at the end of the day that you've got you. We do not need more people in this world who can hold a cold, reserved, walled off, detached energy. We need people in this world who can hold their love and share their love from a place that is self-boundaried, self-respected, and grounded. That is the most beautiful gift of love we can give. And honestly, if we're not loving from that place, then we're probably loving from leaky boundaries and people pleasing, and it honestly probably feels more like resentment in your body than love anyway. So what we actually want to cultivate here is being all the love that you are, feeling safe to shine that in the world, because you know that ultimately you are the one who is choosing who gets that energy and who gets that attention, because you now trust yourself so fully that you know you can walk away from someone who isn't giving it to you. And you know it's not about you, it's about their capacity or where they are right now or what they want right now and what they're available for. And if someone's going to tell you that what they're available for is not being consistent and not committing to you, and maybe they don't actually want kids down the line, then it's going to be your job to make a decision based on what that information is. And when you trust yourself, you can make those decisions to separate with grace and love, with the intention of choosing yourself. All right, my love, I hope this is helpful for you. I don't usually do such a ranty style podcast, but if it landed, then I'd actually love to hear from you on Instagram. I'm going to link my handle below in the show notes. Let's continue the conversation. If you have any follow-up questions or were inspired by anything, then I would love to know. And otherwise, I will see you in the next episode.